Welcome back to Find the Juice. I'm Teddy Slugger. As always, we will have the rankings up on the side for each position. Now let's lock in for week 6 of fantasy football. First, we're going to talk about quarterback like always. And this week we got Jaden Daniels coming in this week as a second ranked quarterback while lining up at home against the Chicago Bears. Jaden Daniels has been slightly disappointing so far this season, ranking bottom middle in fantasy points per pass attempt and rushing attempt. This looks mainly due to his lack of touchdowns, especially on the ground, with 0 so far this season. So why do I believe he'll absolutely pop off this week against the Bears? The Bears allow the third most fantasy points per pass attempt, as well as by far the most fantasy points per rush attempts by quarterbacks this season. They're getting up over 20 points to JJ McCarthy and over 30 points to Jared Goff. I throw the Dak performance out the window as the Cowboys' entire offensive game plan changed after losing CeeDee Lamb early in the game. And finally, the game against the Raiders, who hasn't absolutely shit all over Geno Smith yet this season. And as you can see while looking at the quarterback rankings, someone probably pops out to you, and that's Bryce Young, as we have him ranked fairly high this week. So let's talk about his top option in the wide receiver segment of this video this week, and that is Ted McMillan. Ted is leading the Panthers with nearly a 24% target rate while also ranking 10th in the NFL in first read target. Ted and the Panthers will be facing the Dallas Cowboys this week. Don't let the Rico Dowdle revenge game narrative push you away from Ted. This should be a high scoring game due to Dallas's offense going nuts trying to make up for their defense like it has all season. Speaking of the Dallas defense, it'll also be a high scoring game because Dallas allows the most fantasy points per target to wide receivers while allowing the most receiving yards and touchdowns to wide receivers, while also allowing just the 17th most targets to the position. This plays in perfectly for Ted, who is second among NFL receivers and plays over 20 yards with 9 so far this season. Finally, the Dallas Cowboys have yet to hold the best receiver on any team they faced under their fantasy point projection so far this season. Now let's get into the surprise pick of this week. If you've been following along with us since we were on the Bold and Blended podcast, my top 3 rookie running backs videos, and probably others, this pick might blow you away. And my smash spot at running back this week in week 6 is the guy I believe I'm the biggest critic of, Ashton Jeanty. So why did I pick Ashton Jeanty? And if I'm picking Ashton Jeanty, shouldn't that mean that this is a 100% lock smash pick of the week? Well, let me break it down. Jeanty this week is facing the worst run defense in the NFL in the Tennessee Titans. The Titans allow almost 1 full fantasy point per rush to running backs so far this season. The Titans have only been able to hold Kyren Williams and Nick Chubb under their weekly projections, but let's not forget that Nick Chubb game, Woody Marks popped off. They also just made Michael Carter look like he should have started the season on a team in the NFL just last week. The Titans will now face Jeanty, who has broken the second most tackles in the NFL while being about average in fantasy points per rush attempt behind the 25th best run blocking offensive line in football. Another reason this is a smash spot outside the Titans' poor run defense is when you combine all those previous points with Jeanty's volume. Jeanty enters week 5 with the 5th most rush attempts in the NFL, only behind Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, and Saquon Barkley. And finally, we're going to get into a tight end that probably disappointed a lot of people until last week, and I'm going to go after him again this week, and you're about to find out why, and that's David Njoku. Now, we've already talked about some of these guys that I have on this list, like Jake Ferguson and Jawan Johnson this season. While everyone else is on the internet blasting your skull off your neck with Darren Waller glaze, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about David Njoku. This may have to do with the Browns' new quarterback more than anything else. Take it from a Ducks fan, Dylan Gabriel loves throwing to his tight ends. Terrence Ferguson, the tight end for the Ducks last season, was only 2 targets behind number 2 Duck receiver Evan Stewart. You've already seen the evidence of this last week in London against Minnesota, where Gabriel targeted Njoku 9 times, most of the season for Njoku, and Harold Fannin for another 4 targets, while they also combined for 2 touchdowns. While Njoku was off to a slow start to the season in comparison to expectations, sitting near the bottom of all tight ends in fantasy points per targets and 15th among tight ends in target rate, you should know that Teddy Slugger guarantees the come around is now. Much like last season, the Steelers are struggling defending the pass over the middle, especially the tight end. They allow the fifth most fantasy points per target to tight ends. To go along with this, Dylan Gabriel prefers those intermediate over the middle throws, which should lead to another massive week of Njoku targets, Njoku yak yards, and possibly another touchdown. And finally, Njoku averages 10.6 PPR points in his career against the Steelers, which makes us feel even more confident of our prediction of 12 points for David Njoku on Sunday against the Steelers. And that's going to do it for week 6. If you have any questions, disagreements, just leave them in the comments below or follow us on our socials. You can find those in the description below. I will help with redraft, keeper league, IDP league, dynasty league, anything. I got you. You just gotta ask. And tune in next week when Rashee Rice is back. Find out where I got him ranked among receivers in his first game back against the Raiders in week 7. Until then,